everyone. I thought I would do a little fermentation video. I'll show you what I've been up to here in my kitchen, in Baba Yaga's kitchen, using lacto fermentation. So recently, well, I did a sauerkraut some time ago. This was like back in, I don't remember, almost back in the springtime. And this sauerkraut is it's just cabbage, and I put in some collards that I had picked from the garden, and it's just a regular salt brine. I can't remember the proportion of salt. I do have Sandor Katz's Art of Fermentation, and if anybody is interested in doing fermenting, I highly recommend this book. Even his older book, Wild Fermentation, is good too. So I've done the sauerkraut that I'm gradually using up, and then I did a beet and horseradish brine relish. With Polish food, we always had something that we called, let me see if I can pronounce it correctly, żan. It was typically, my mother anyway would buy prepared horseradish and just mix it with cooked beets. I have found that using fresh, raw horseradish root, it's really easy, and the way that we always did it was chopping up the horseradish or grating it, and then putting on a solution of salt, sugar, water, and vinegar, and you heat that up and you melt the sugar and salt, and then you pour it over, and then you just kind of mix it with the beets. But I wanted to try making a fermented version, and I did find a recipe online that called for using fresh grated horseradish and parsnip. I didn't really want the parsnip, I wanted the beets, so I just used raw grated horseradish and beets. I can't remember the proportions. It was like, I think 12 ounces total of that, and then a couple of tablespoons of sugar. I can't remember what the salt. The brine was basically, you just brine it the way you would pickles, and after a few days it was ready to go. The horseradish really gets toned down. You don't really get much heat from it, so I might get some more root or dig up some root from my garden and grate it up next time I want to have that. But so instead of using vinegar, again, it's a lacto fermented relish. And then I had my neighbor give me like half a dozen rather large cucumbers, and I'm one person, I can't eat that many, but I took them anyway because I didn't want to be rude. So I thought, well, I wanted to make pickles, so these were basically a 3-day pickle. Just sliced them up. I picked some horseradish leaf from my garden out front. The horseradish, cherry, peach, there are different kinds of leaves that have lots of tannins in them. And if you put that, I put it on the bottom with the garlic and dill, fresh dill. It will help keep them crispy. And they're pretty good. I mean, the cucumbers themselves are already getting a little bit mature, so they had developed the seeds, even though they weren't really hard. So they weren't an ideal pickling cucumber, but I had a couple spears with some melted cheese on sourdough bread for lunch, and they were really good. So that's all the fermented foods I have. And next I'm going to go on and talk to you about my ginger beer or soda making process. There's different ways you can make fermented sodas. Kombucha is kind of a fermented, effervescent drink, but I like using fresh ginger root. Most of the instructions I've read say to look for organic ginger. that some of the ginger that comes into the United States, particularly if it's from China, might be irradiated, and therefore the yeasts that we're looking for, the bacteria that's going to cause it to have the lactofermentation is on the skin. So to make the soda, you first have to make the starter, which is a ginger bug. And this is an active ginger bug. I can hear it. I keep wanting to get it so that you can see what it is, but it will get very bubbly. This bug is probably about 4 days now, but it started becoming active within 24 hours. So it's probably because of the weather, the warm weather, and there's probably a lot of yeast on this particular ginger. So the way you make a ginger bug is you just need 3 things. You need water, sugar, and fresh ginger root. So you need approximately 2 tablespoons of grated fresh ginger, and you don't want to peel it. You want the peel, because that's where, from what I've read, is where the yeasts are. And this is pretty approximate. So I've got about 2 teaspoons here. So that goes in your jar. And then you need 2 teaspoons of sugar. And I use dehydrated organic cane crystals. So again, it's kind of an approximation. You can use measuring spoons if you want, but it's not absolutely necessary. And then a cup of water. And these jars have little measures on them, so I can kind of get it pretty close. So then you stir it up. And I'm going to use this one later, so I'm going to use the cheesecloth from this. Okay. I've got some ginger boiling for the next batch of soda. And I'll talk to you about flavoring and stuff like that. So then you just put your cheesecloth on top and set it off on the counter somewhere. And every day you don't add any more water, but you add another teaspoon each of grated ginger and sugar. And once it is actively bubbling, you'll be able to hear it and see it. Then you're ready to use it to inoculate your batch of soda. And to do that, you boil up, for instance, I am boiling. I'm going to make a half a gallon. Let's see, here we go. I'm going to make a half a gallon. You can make a gallon, but I usually do it in half gallon batches, because then I can experiment with different flavors. Now you can just do plain ginger, but I have also added other flavors. I have a batch of ginger with rose geranium leaves. So to do the ginger, you boil it, simmer it for 15 minutes, and then you turn off the heat and leave it set for 15 minutes. And this is half the volume. You use half the volume to boil your the bulk of your drink, the volume of your drink. And then after that's done and you strain it into your crock, then you add the sugar, which Sandra Katz says 2 cups per gallon. I use about a cup of sugar per half gallon of soda. And you dilute it with the warm mixture, then you put in the rest of the volume of water, which is half again. So this is a quart, and then I'll do another quart of water once the sugar's dissolved and everything. And then you let it cool. He says to room temperature. I mean, he says to body temperature. I do it to room temperature. I found that body temperature is still a little bit too warm, and it doesn't get actively fermented as easily. So this batch I'm going to do, I'm going to add some hibiscus flowers to it, so it'll make kind of a, I always have thought of hibiscus flowers as sort of a natural Kool-Aid. It reminds me of kind of fruit punch. So I'm going to put in some hibiscus flowers in here too. So we'll have that kind of sweet, tangy soda with this one. All right, so let's go back over here. Oops. So I'm not going to be doing the whole process today. I'm just giving you some idea of how easy it really is to do. But I will show you what the finished product is. And I'm going to open this over the sink, because sometimes it's very fizzy. Whoa. All right. Yes. So this one is, and you'll see, you get lots of nice bubbles, effervescence. You heard it when it went off. So the bubbles are a little bit different than regular carbonated drinks. They're a little bit milder. I would say they don't hit you quite so hard as a regular soda. But you can experiment with all kinds of flavors. I have a sassafras one. I think that was in the last video I said. So I dug up sassafras root from my side yard, and it has that kind of root beery kind of flavor. So I have sassafras soda. It's a pretty, how shall I say? For me, I do a lot of experimentation with the sodas in particular, and you can do it with the vegetables too, but the sodas are just fun because you can use all kinds of herbs. You can do it with fruit. I always add a little bit of ginger to the volume that's going to be going in. I don't know if you have to. I haven't experimented with completely eliminating the ginger and only using the ginger bug. It might work. I have found that sometimes it doesn't look like what's in the crock gets actively fermented. You don't see a lot of bubbles. And if it goes for 4 or 5 days and I'm not seeing a lot of bubbles, frequently what I'll do is bottle it up anyway. And then after it sets, it will be fermented, or it will have created the effervescence in the bottle. So it works like that too. But yeah, so it's pretty experimental for me. There's all sorts of instructions online if you want to have them written out, but I do recommend Sandor Katz's books. So you get a nice, like, refreshing drink, and it's also lacto-fermented, so it has the probiotics in it. And what could be better than a probiotic soda? Yeah, so I highly recommend everybody try fermentation. I'm a fan. Okay. I think that's it. I'm going to take care of the rest of this and get it crocked up, and we'll see how the next one goes.